Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast. We tell you stories, you deliver us cheeseburgers. I love cheeseburgers. I am, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we are here to tell you a story. Well, guys, we're wrapping up this story. I'm going to give you a little recap, and then we'll get into this, our final episode. Here we have a world set with a bunch of technology. The economic system is run by a giant AI that accepts updates to its code as currency. So basically, you write a bit of code that helps make it more efficient, and you get money from that. The government type, which is interesting, is a, what did you call it, Reed? An ethical anarchy?
Ethics-based anarchy.
Ethics-based anarchy. And I think this is really a sign to the fact that the AI is getting less and less efficient at managing humanity because all of the government is sort of breaking down into kind of an anarchy style system. The Pantheon is groups of people who have specific skills to like kind of genetic skills to manage these large scale machines in order to, how do I say it, like control the weather and do different it's kind of Pantheon-esque things, and these people are sort of taught and raised from like children on how best to run these machines, and then it's kind of a lottery based system, and whoever can sort of run it the best gets to be the Pantheon of war or the weather for that amount of time. Our hero is a defunct one of these pantheons. He's kind of an ex-pantheon. His name is Chase. He is what's called cyber burned. So he is no longer allowed near or around technology because he tried to basically insert code into the AI that would cause the whole thing to come crumbling down. And so he kind of lives on the outskirts of the giant mega city with other sort of cyber burnt or recluse people. There's the Quartet, which has Chase in it, and then there's Rat and Blind Riley. Blind Riley, he's blind because he was one of these Pantheon-esque people, but he basically could see sort of the control and the way the machine and all of reality worked so well that it was kind of overstimulating, and he went blind because of it. And so he's like a super savant. And what was Rat again, Seth?
Just kind of a down and out guy, not really part of society. He wasn't cyber burnt. But he got his name Rat because he kind of weaves his way in and out and kind of lives off the lamb, aka,
Right.
Trapping the rats and the the rodents as such to make his food and way in life.
Yeah. And then there was the fighting style, which is sort of a reminiscent of the personal shield system of the Dune universe, where bullets and things like that don't really, you can't really affect people with them. And so people are back to using knives, swords, things like that. Does that seem about correct, Reed? There was one interesting part of it.
There's technique involved. You can't, the shields will repel blades. But if you introduce them, real gently, you've got to kind of work your way so it doesn't trigger the reflex response.
Right.
And with a blade like a sword, if you get it part way in and then try to do something, all you got to do with the shield is just twist and just snap the blade off. So there's technique. The fighting, they have, but what's developed as a spectator sport, so to speak, is what's called shield grappling. There's really interesting techniques of what it's like to fight, wrestling, grappling, where you try to get a hold of each other, and the shields repel each other, and it makes for a real interesting sport. But it isn't, the whole idea of like fighting to kill somebody. I mean, there are still assassins. Poison is the best because you get a small blade, through the shield, and then you just nick somebody. It's much more difficult to get a blade through where you actually kill them with a stab to the heart or something, because of the shield technology keeps advancing. But it's you can wipe somebody out if you have like a powerful enough energy weapon that just obliterates the guy, the shield, and the real estate he's standing on, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, cool. And that brings us up to this week. And I think we played around with a little bit that maybe there isn't necessarily a villain, or maybe because certain corporations and certain governments and systems had introduced updates to the AI very early on that had basically given them loopholes. Like maybe one of them just doesn't pay taxes on anything, another one gets a certain amount of discounts every month. And these are updates that they were able to push to the AI in the efforts of quote unquote becoming more efficient. And now here, 50, 100 years later, these people who are able to push these updates are the heads or the starters of these giant corporations, still taking advantage of these really unique loopholes. So they obviously are really concerned with everything staying exactly as it is, functioning wise, but the AI itself has become kind of bloated and inefficient. Even though the goal was to increase its efficiency, it has sort of become a bloated mess. But it also has, robot guards, it has armies of robots and androids it can control, and it will protect itself. But then you also have these other corporations and governments and things that are also looking to sort of protect their assets. So it's kind of a two-villain situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Cool. So what story elements did you guys have for this week?
I have unique artifact.
I have goal.
Goal? That's awesome.
Goal.
I had happy ending, so don't worry, guys. It's going to turn out okay in the end here. So which one do you guys want to go first? Because I certainly don't want to go first.
Mine is kind of a throwaway. What I mean by that is that it's kind of ancillary to the story that we have thus far. If I hear the goal, I might be able to weave it in better.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and start with the goal, which I had some ideas for the ending, but I don't want to step on your toes. So I'll give the goal and then kind of leave an open end, I guess, and then we'll see what you have in mind. So the
Gotcha.
goal would be these people like Blind Riley or keep wanting to say Clyde, but it's not Clyde.
Chase.
Chase, where they have to, I guess you could say, either access the system by getting in these Pantheon chairs or simply hacking the system with their mind, as their connection to it is simply there in the ether, if you want to put it that way. And then to get in and turn the system off or rewrite the code. And I think what ends up happening with that idea is that they get a hold of basically running the AI from the position of the Pantheon and have to decide either to turn it down, like turn it off completely, or basically rewriting how the Pantheon functions instead of just directing some of the output, but actually then directing how the program is running, editing with their own connection real time, rather than all of these other subtle updates.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I had this idea as you were talking about it, and I'm not trying to rain on your parade or anything, but I had this idea that the Pantheon, however many years ago that the AI is, that they created the AI to sort of take care of a bunch of stuff, and they would take care of the other things. And so really what needs to happen is the AI needs to go away, and the Pantheon needs to start taking care of all the things that the AI was taking care of, like taking care of the people and making sure that things are going the way they should, And so like, I don't know, it's just this idea of like they're obfuscating their responsibilities, but the current Pantheon have no idea that that's what they're doing, because they had no idea that the Pantheons before them had made the AI to basically take their job over so they could just relax. I don't know. It's
it
an
makes
idea
sense.
I had.
Oh,
That makes sense.
okay. I think this would be a good spot to put in the artifact. This centers around this artifact specifically of interest to, well, I'm going to call the god of music, or the musicians guild, or whatever have you. But anyway, what is developed is this chair, for example, this chair in the Pantheon, for want of a better term, is the people that have they know how to work the machines to produce music. Like the AI, it's all computer generated. You don't have instruments as such anymore,
Right?
And just so it's the and they keep all of how they interface with the AI in order to provide music for people to listen to or to provide background tracks on dramatic productions or whatever. It's all been, in secret, because that's part of the thing, is each of these chairs will control and protect their own expertise, right?
Right.
Well, what has happened is there was a construction project, and somebody was working for the excavators, and they found a hardened case that was clearly real old in terms of the technology and the materials.
Right.
And so he got permission to get this offsite and then figure out what it was, and he managed to get it open. And it contained a piano-like instrument. So it was a big, heavy thing, but it was created sounds by striking different strings, right?
Right. A hurdy-gurdy.
Yeah, a piano-like instrument. But it came with a cylindrical device that contained an archive of music. So you could, once he figured out how this thing worked, it would, use the piano to play music, right?
Right.
And it also had included in this was like documents written out, explanations of music theory. It was and it was a complete explanation. So it was like a field of study, so to speak, that had been completely lost to the AI. And what with one thing and another, and the chair of the music department, I'm going to call him, the music guild people, they wanted to keep access to music kind of on the down low, so that they just maybe people's access to music. People loved listening to music, but as far as creating music was something, people would sing songs and stuff, but nobody had made the connection there at one time. Different notes, meant you could like literally write them out like a language and reproduce songs and stuff like this. So what happened was that it created a little bit of an uproar. Like, this became of great interest to people outside the music guild, because everybody likes to, are consumers of music. But the idea that people outside the guild could actually make music, and like, this was like, oh man, this was a big deal. Like, if we could recreate this, we'll call it the hurdy-gurdy. Recreate this instrument so people could make up their own music and write down, and compose music. Anyway, this was kind of a shakeup I see it as kind of just a small microcosm in the Pantheon AI controlled system, but it was one that was felt really across society. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting artifact to discover.
I kind of like that. The idea that maybe there's more things like this all around, little vignettes, like little artifacts of a world that's gone when things were different.
Right.
You're digging it up and you find that, or they break through and they find, a basement of a library,
Right.
And it's just like a bunch of books, and immediately certain things kind of rush forward and claim the books, and you can go to the museums, but the information isn't like as clear as it could be as to like where these came from, or, what they're for. I'm reading this is kind of a funny example of this, but I'm reading her the Redwall books, and we just read Mossflower, and now we're starting to read Redwall, and it's like there's enough time in between the two. It's like 200 years. The equivalent of 200 years of time has passed between the two. And I am really excited because the map is different in both books as to like where things are. And the idea is that so much time has passed between the two things that they've forgotten what they used to have.
Yeah.
And in that same way, people have forgotten what they used to have here as well.
Yeah.
He finds this thing, and to his knowledge and understanding, music is a thing created by the Pantheon and by the Pantheon alone. It's a divine art.
Right.
AKA an art that the divine makes.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden he has this realization, that no, it's not a divine art. It's just an art, and you could learn it.
Yeah. Accessible to the masses, so to speak.
Right.
Which is, of course, always been, throughout history, is music has always been the salve to the downtrodden. It's been the language of protest movements. It's been, throughout history. The music is something that is for the world and for the universe and for the ages. It isn't something to be controlled from the top.
Right. I have this kind of picture. So you guys want to hear the happy ending?
Sure.
It's kind of a happy ending, and you can figure out how we get there. But I have this kind of picture of everyone talks about constantly through this that the AI enables us to have a ethics-based anarchy system, right? Where each person decides what's good for them. It's the ultimate form of liberty, It's liberty you can count on. Liberty you can trust. Liberty provided for you by the AI, And that is the thing that Chase is fighting against the most, because he understands the fact that the AI isn't some benevolent force, right? The Pantheon aren't some benevolent force. They're squabbling children up on their high tower.
Yeah, and there's winners and losers.
And his the idea that we're currently living, it's just another facade to placate people and make them feel like this is why that life is good and that this is how things should be. And the happy ending is that my thought is that him and Rat and Blind Riley basically make their way into the bowels of the city, like underground, and are able to sort of create out of junk and other things a chair, right? For Chase to and they use Rat's ability to sort of know the sneaky ways in and out of the city. They use Blind Riley's ability to understand the pathways, the connection pathways, and understand how the system is working to know where to plug in. And they plug in, and Chase basically goes head to head. Maybe it's a virtual world. Maybe that's how it displays itself. Maybe not. Maybe it's just some kind of fight. But basically, he instead of like writing code to kill or to stop the AI, he basically writes code to kill the AI and just causes the downfall, like the destruction of the AI and the whole system as a whole. And that doesn't sound like a very happy ending. So I need your guys' help to get there. Because part of me is thinking that the beginning of the book would start with, how they have like little prefaces before the start of the chapter. And at that time, there was no king in Israel, and every man did what was right in his own eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then the end of the chapter would basically be the same thing. He would say the same thing, except he wouldn't say Israel. He would say whatever the name of the city was. New Chicago or New Los Angeles or, Los.
It kind of ends with that. We're like that same thing. There was no governing body. And so everyone did what was right in their own eyes, in regards to their fellow man. But then almost like twisting with like a word thing where, and then now once like that parameter that kind of kept their idea of safety and, who's going to decide who was actually right or trespassing someone
Yeah.
else's thing. Now that's gone. And now they began to do what was right.
Yeah. You thought you
in
were
their own eyes.
Yeah, you thought you were living in freedom. Now live in freedom.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know?
Which I mean that could turn out very messy.
It could turn out very messy.
Yes.
Well,
democracy, I mean, a lynch mob is essentially democracy with a minority of one. The guy with the rope around his neck, right?
Yeah, but it's also a happy ending, because it's like what you do is you show how the only people who are fooled to think that this is working are the Pantheon.
Right.
The Pantheons, the Pantheon class, the school, those upper echelon people. Everyone else knows it's not working, and you can show through vignettes how people try to do what is quote unquote right in their own eyes, according to what the laws of liberty that should be given to them, according to this ethics-based anarchy, right? That the AI is holding up and these corporations and these governments are trying to hold up. But time and time again, what instead you see is the corporations and the governments and the AI and all of its things coming in and cutting out people's actual ability to choose for themselves what is right.
Exactly.
And so what he
Picks
does,
winners and losers.
yeah, he comes in as a harbinger of, I mean, death and change and terror, you know. But my thought would be is that throughout the story, you meet several different people, right? You meet a little shop owner, you meet a family, you meet a, maybe a guy who, man and a woman who run an orphanage, right? You meet cab drivers, you meet couriers, you meet hackers, you meet all these different people who are living their lives, and in some way, how the system is in fact exacting control onto them while making them think that or telling them that they're free. And then once he does this, maybe he broadcasts a thing. And at that time, there was no king in Techno City, and every man did what was right in his own eyes. Be free, right? And you see some people immediately turning towards selfishness or looting, but then you see other people rising to the morality that they have decided for in their own hearts is true, and finally doing the thing that they have been wanting to do, like this family. I mean, this couple who have 3 kids, but also have like a orphanage of 15 children, just like loading them into the the huge cargo thing bus, and just driving out of the city, which they haven't been able to do because of regulations and rules about where they're allowed to set up. And it's like every time that Chase talks to them, or Rat talks to them, or Blind Riley talks to them, or someone talks to them, they talk about, reading about farming and homesteading. And it's like, this is what we'd like to do, but we can't leave the city. And it's like, they just leave, or just, so you see, as soon as like freedom, quote unquote, true actual freedom is restored, yes, chaos breaks loose, but also each man is given the opportunity and does what is right according to him.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like I can see him on the microphone in your happy ending, saying it's not going to be bad. We still know that everybody's responsible for their own life, liberty, and property. And to the degree that you don't impinge on someone else's life, liberty, and property. And we have to stand up for each other. If someone is being bullied, we don't let that stand. Just throw out kind of like the 7 suggestions as opposed to the 10 commandments. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Or you send out the in the course of human events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you say like we're coming, out of a great struggle, but with malice toward none and charity toward all.
Yeah.
The link I just read because of Lincoln's birthday. I just read the second inaugural address. Stop and do that sometime if you just a treat for the heart and for the.
Yeah, exactly. I sort of like that idea as it's not like the happiest of ending. It's not like everything gets fixed, but it's like a loosing of it's a loosing of control.
It's like, what I thought of when you were describing, like you have the thing and everybody knows that it's not right. And then it's such a relief when you're finally the veil is pulled back, and yes, it's messy, but it's good to know where we stand, It's like I think about like, okay, Frodo and Sam were captured by Faramir's raiders in Ithilien in the Lord of the Rings, and what with being Sam being just kind of a good-hearted but somewhat naive, he blurts out too much information, and all of a sudden Faramir starts putting 2 and 2 together, and okay, so the word ring has come up, and then Sam says, well, Master Faramir, now is the time for you to show your quality. You have this information. What are you going to do with it? Anyway, it's such that's one of my favorite parts of that book.
Yeah, that's really good.
Is where, because Faramir knows his brother Boromar was hot-headed, and he realized he's by bits and pieces has been able to put together that he failed, right?
Yeah.
And that's hard news, and loyalty for his brother and his dad, and then yet knowing in his heart what has to happen, and Sam just saying, you have the power to kind of flush our toilet here. Now is the time for you to show your quality. And I think I could see that that would be kind of like, okay guys, now it's time to step up to the plate and let's do this.
I
Absolutely.
would say at some point, being that Reed brought up the music thing, and then that it's kind of ending in kind of like a burning down of the old system.
Yeah.
My mind went to that at some point, some character, I don't know which one, but as like parts of the town are burning, like he goes out on his balcony and plays his violin.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Again, given
Like,
the connotation of that, I don't know which character
well, it's
that
the
would
guy
need
who
to
found
be.
the it's the guy who found the box and it's the guy who found the instrument, who kept it hidden for so long.
yeah.
You know?
Uh-huh.
Cool. I like this story. I think this is a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wait It Gets Better. If you liked this episode, if you liked how this story went and where we went with it, I'd love to hear from you. You can send us an email at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com. You can message us on Twitter at @getsbettercast. You can send us a pigeon. You know where to send it. Until next time, we will see you guys later. Bye.